Questions for you then. I got
Guys,
some questions for
on
you
today's
after.
show, we're going to be talking about the Brooklyn Nets and the Big Three. Are they for real, or are they going to bust? On top of that, we're going to talk about the NBA trading deadline, what we think about who's going to be. And you know what? We got our favorite toy, the ESPN trade machine. We're going to throw in some teams, play around with it. That should be fun, right? And that's majority of the conversation is going to be about that. But we can only start in one place and one place only. Have you guys seen Kyrie Irving's interview after his absence for a couple weeks? The man absolutely lost the plot.
So I read about it.
Go ahead, Cam.
No, I read about it. I didn't see it. I just heard something like, I read like a quote that was just like, I just didn't feel like it. I just didn't feel like playing or something. And I mean, that's got to be, how many times has he made a comment like, I just didn't want to go to work? Basically, when you say I just didn't feel like it, or I wasn't feel like, you're just saying I didn't want to go to work. Like, we can't wake up in the morning and go, I just didn't want to go to work this morning, and then tell people that.
He's like a super talented J.R. Ryder, man. Y'all may not remember J.R. Ryder.
I remember J.R.
Man.
So yeah, let's talk about Kyrie Irving's press conference. Like, it was actually so cringy. He stood in front of a camera like this, wearing a hoodie, leaning against the table the whole entire time. Did not look interested at all. And if you guys don't remember, a couple weeks ago, when they asked him to do the first interview when he first came back, he's like, "Nah, I'm not doing it. I don't need to."
And then a couple of years ago, he did the same thing with LeBron, man. Yeah, so, I remember when he was in Cleveland, he just did with an interview talking all about that, like literally saying, like, you know, I wouldn't consider him a role model, and I'm not anybody's Robin. You know, I don't care who's Batman. Like Kyrie's always spoken his mind, and it's a weird place in there.
So, but he needs media training, but he refuses to respect the media. So that's the problem. Most of these players, what people don't understand is they've been trained. Like, they've been trained. Don't say what you're fucking thinking right now. Like, don't just say, you can think all these things. There's times where dudes have come out and said what they're thinking, and it's like a rarity. And you're like, oh damn, like LeBron getting up. That's a famous GIF now. Dude got up with his little short shorts, and when he just left them, like, that was LeBron being like, you know what? I'm not responding to that question no more, because I know what I'm going to say is not going to be good, so I'm out. Like,
you want to hear what he said? I'm going to play.
He pulled the mark. I'm just here so I don't get fined. Yeah, I'm just here so I don't get fined.
This is very cringy.
The team addressed everybody that need to be addressed. Now it's time to move on.
What?
You know, pretty interesting in watching when you take a break from everything. There's just so many assumptions about what's going on. And so many people feel like they know me best. And they have no idea who I am or what I'm about or what I stand for, or even attempt to take the time, or even for me to invite them to take the time. So it's a two-way street. And when things become overwhelming in life, you know, you just got to take a step back and realize what's important. And I love to play. It's never been questioned.
Does he love to play, guys?
No. So, no. He's like Vince Carter, dog. Like, I love Vince. Vince ended up loving to play later on in his career. Yeah. But Vince, in the early stages of his career, didn't love basketball. Same with Tracy. Like, these certain dudes who could have been something else. Kyrie Irving saying, I love to play basketball is a lie. Like, if you love to play basketball, you'd show a lot more respect to the game, and you'd show a lot more respect to your colleagues. That's including the media and everybody. Like, the disrespect, I've never seen somebody show disrespect to fans, colleagues, and a guy like LeBron James all in within like 3 years, man. It's ridiculous. Like, what he did with
to play basketball with Kyrie. That's about it. Kyrie would be a great one-on-one player, or if you saw him in like the 3v3 tournaments and he didn't have two partners, like, you know, like Kyrie likes to play with Kyrie.
It's kind of sad though, because he is.
Can we go back to the rest of the interview? And then, and then we'll continue. So, guys, this is super cringy at points.
Committed myself, you know, when this wasn't even a thing for me. You know, I didn't really care about media. Didn't really care about the fandom. All I cared about was.
Guys, we have to stop right there. He just said, "I don't really care about the fandom." Is he saying he doesn't care about the fans, or is he just saying fandom?
That's what he's saying, bro. Because remember, he told those Boston fans, if you'll have me, I'll stay. And then when he turned his back on them, he goes, I don't owe anybody anything. That was his quote.
Disrespect.
And Egal, we've lived through this, man. Like, literally, this is a Granit Xhaka moment. This is literally like, I don't care. I literally don't care. You know what I mean? Like, he's done that in Cleveland. He did it at Duke. I mean, come on, he had a foot injury that like kept him out of his entire. Like he played 8 games for Duke.
Do you remember? So funny story around. I don't know if you guys will remember this because this one's deep. This is going into the archives.
Mm-hmm.
Before he got into the league, or it was a year up, he had just gotten the league and he didn't really play because he was hurt that first year. Yep. And him and Kobe had a connection because Kobe knew his dad and shit. So there's like a connection there. And they were talking one-on-one. And he looks at Kobe and he says he could take him 1v1. And Kobe looks at him and goes, "Are you crazy, son?" He's like, "You can beat me one-on-one?" Yeah. He goes, "How about you go talk to your pops about that?" He's like, "You a high school kid. You haven't even played one game in the NBA. You a high school kid. You didn't play in college, and you haven't played in the NBA. You a high school kid talking to me like that?" And he went off on him, and it was like if things could have gone viral back then, this would have gone viral. Like it's
like that Last Dance meme where Jordan comes out and says, "And I took
it personal." Yeah, I took it personal. Let's finish the interview because there's a lot to break down. I'm happy we stopped in between.
It's just the ethics of the game and being taught the fundamentals. And now that it's become bigger and it's more of a responsibility that I have in this position I'm in, I'm grateful because I'm able to stand on this platform with others alongside of me that have sacrificed and are going through similar things. So I'm not alone in this.
So basically, he's on the stage doing the press conference. I don't really like doing this. And then afterwards, he's like, "You know what? I didn't mess up. I just needed a break. And you know what? I'm not sorry. I don't care about the fans. I don't care about anything. I'm just here because it's my job." And indirectly saying everything he could say without just saying, "I don't care. I had to take time for myself and I don't give a shit what anyone tells me."
Listen,
I'm just here so I don't get fined.
I think he clearly has like his own mental issues, whatever. That's fine, and I'm not going to hate on that. Everybody has them, but I just want the guy to come out and be more honest about it. Be like DeMar and Kevin Love and those guys who are like, "Listen, we deal with depression, we deal with these issues." So it's like when we don't want to do something or when something is not going the right way, be honest about it. Because that's the way I look at Kyrie. I think Kyrie has his issues, and they're always alluded to. You see, like Stephen A. and a bunch of people, people saying, you see like reports, "Oh, people are wondering what's wrong with Kyrie" and things like that. He clearly just isn't comfortable talking about it because when you give an interview like that and you look like that and you're there's something else going on, but he's so in himself that he's like, "I'm not going to tell people, but instead I'm going to say all the wrong things," which is what I just don't get. It's like, I wish he would just be honest and be like, "Yo, this is what's going on. This is why I didn't show up. I'm sorry." But like the disrespect he shows to the media and the fans has gotten a bit out of hand now. It's like, yo, these are the people who, without the media, you don't get put on TV. Without the fans, there's nobody to play for, so you don't get paid, so you don't get to do what you love. So it's like it's time to start showing some respect to the people who will put you in a position to do what you love. Like that's how I look at Kyrie. That's how I look at it.
But Cam, you just said something really like, is it medical? Is it something like, it almost comes across like he's bipolar because it's like you see him in a certain way to where he, when he's on the court, he's unstoppable in a lot of instances, and it looks like he's actually enjoying it. But then in other times, he looks like he does not want to be there. You know what I'm saying? Like at all. And then in the interviews, you just hear it. It's like, it's painful. It's like, you don't even need to media coach him. You just need to keep him away from the media.
I think that's probably that's probably the next best step for the Nets is just be like, I know the media want access to him, but if I'm the Nets, I'm just talking to him and I'm talking to the media and I'm like, "Listen, guys, talk to Durant, talk to Harden. Hell, talk to Joe Harris. Yeah. Talk about his fist pumps."
Yeah. The guy's kind of loopy though. The guy doesn't want the attention. He says he doesn't want the attention, but then he says stuff immediately to get attention. Like when he said he thinks the earth is flat. Like, come on.
And I think that goes back to Devin's point though. It kind of really does. That's what bipolar people do. Like they say they do wild swings of shit. Like it's really wild. Like one way you're very and I'm not going to say because I don't know for sure, but it's just weird. It's really at this point, it's pretty weird. Disrespect. That's fair. That's okay. Fair.
Now let's go. Let's get to the score. I didn't watch the full game, guys. I went back and I'm like, how on earth did the Brooklyn Nets let Cleveland, the team that has the worst offensive record in the NBA, drop 147 points in 2 overtimes? I get it that it's 2 overtimes, but still 147 points.
Still 113 in regulation. Yeah, that's still 113 points in regulation. But we've also said like this Nets team is not going to play defense. Like James Harden's idea of defense is non-existent. Kevin Durant, whom I love and I think is one of the top 2 players in the world at the moment, you know, like he's not a defender, he's a scorer, he's a shooter, he's the assassin. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know who on that team is going to play the defense necessary to take them to the next level. You know what I'm saying? Like I think it's Oklahoma City Part 2. Whereas you're going to need, you know, there's no KCP, there's no who's the enforcer on the Nets outside of like you know, like a Jared Allen or somebody like that to actually be the defender that they need to win a championship. Because Anthony Davis can get in a lot of people's faces, and that Lakers team still looms large over the entirety of the NBA. Not to mention you got to beat Milwaukee to get out, you know, to get out of the.
So I think you kind of nailed it with the defense thing, right? They should have never let Allen leave. That was wild. Like, in my opinion, Jared Allen was your best interior defender. The man's a proper rim protector. He's growing into himself. They were never going to be able to keep him based on the money. And I understand that's probably why they moved him, because they knew once he goes into restricted free agency, hell, I was hoping the Raptors threw the bag at him. There's going to be a lot of teams that are going to come for him, so they can't keep him. So they threw him in that deal.
Paris LeVert too. So I mean, it's literally like you said there with no defense.
You have no defense because Harden doesn't play defense. KD can play defense, but KD's not that dude. He's not like your defensive anchor. KD is a good defensive player. When you want to put him on somebody, he can do the job.
Right.
But now it's like you look at it and you're sitting there going, DeAndre Jordan. Like, is your dude. And DeAndre Jordan was, in his peak, a good defender, but he was also one of those dudes, like, you know, Hassan Whiteside too. These guys are shot block chasers. They're not the ADs. They didn't build. This is a weird thing about this team is they didn't build a team around these guys. They put these guys together, and they're going to have to next year. So what's going to happen is they're not going to win the chip this year. So I know we're going to get there. Egal, I don't believe that this Brooklyn Nets will win a chip this year, because what they're going to have to do is what these other great teams who are built around big superstars have done in the past, like the Miami Heat, which is a good example, because they went and got like the James Johnsons and those just like the gritty guys.
It all depends. Guys, stop 1 second. It all depends who does the buyout clause. Who makes the difference? Who makes the difference in the buyout market? Because in my opinion, if they can get a JaVale McGee, if they can get a Burke from the Knicks, if they can get some of these guys who might get bought out, realistically they need defenders. So who is a defender out there that could get bought out that they could get?
But that's you're not going to see a Sean Livingston player, and the Knicks aren't letting anybody go. The Knicks aren't going to let Kevin Knox go. The Knicks aren't going to let they're going to fight for a playoff spot in the East, much like my Hawks, which is why when everybody talks about the Hawks, you know, if I'm the Nets, I do everything in my power to make a phone call to try to get John Collins. You know, we can talk about, I mean, John Collins in Brooklyn, John Collins in Boston, John Collins in Sacramento. Like, those are 3 trades that I would be looking at, because the Hawks are not going to max him out because they got to pay Trae Young. And I would also look at somebody like Kevin Huerter, because, you know, not only are they going to need a shooter, they're going to need somebody that can D somebody up.
So the John Collins thing, and I was going to ask you about that. I'm glad you recognize it. He's not going to stay.
No. And we're not. Travis Schlink's going to get the best thing that he possibly can for a guy. We're not going to pay him $41 million a season.
No, you're not. So I was actually hoping not to go down a rabbit hole. I was like, I hope the Raptors go after him, because we need assets, and John Collins is an asset. He's not a defensive player. He doesn't play. He's not. That's not what he does. He can block shots and stuff, but he's not. He's not. He's not.
He was last night against those Pistons.
But Egal, to your point, to the buyout market, I think the ideal situation for them is like a McGee. But you're not going to get the Burks of the world. You're not going to. Too many teams this year. There's so much uncertainty. Too many teams are going to keep they're going to keep most of it close to the chest. They're going to try and go for it, because there's also the play-in tournament this year, right? So you have a chance, being in 9th, being in 10th, you have a chance to play into the playoffs. So why would you let an Alex Burke go when he was killing it for, it was 3 games, sure, but the Knicks look like a decent team under Thibodeau now. So their only hope is, you're right, like maybe a JaVale McGee. I can't think of any. This is why I think they're going to lose this year, not win a championship, because what they're going to have to do is do what those other teams have done, like the Heat, and go find those guys in the offseason, because JaVale McGee is a free agent, for instance. So he'll be happy to go to the Nets for nothing next year. So they're going to have to go find those guys, pick them out, and be like, oh, you're a good defender. You don't do much else. Like, even like a Rondé Hollis Jefferson would be a great fit on that team, because you just throw him in there, go get 6 fouls.
Lonnie Walker from San Antonio. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's too expensive,
right? They're too young.
Lonnie Walker's not going nowhere, by the way.
He's too young.
Let's not even go there. Lonnie Walker's not going nowhere.
The other name for defense, I know he had a shitty game. Everybody was begging to take him out. But what about Kelly Oubre? Kelly Oubre as a defender can lock somebody down.
Nah, he's not going nowhere, though.
The problem is the money, dog. So they spent these 3 players have taken up too much of their salary and Joe Harris, and keep in mind, Joe Harris is on 60 mil. Joe Harris is on 60 mil, and he deserves it. Yep. So you have 4 players taking up all your cap, so you only can get these minimums. That's it. That's it.
Okay, so let's talk about the real elephant in the room. They made this big 3 with no plan of how they're all going to fit defensively. Let's be honest, we know that, and you guys just said that, right? So how do you expect them to beat Sixers, who are juggernaut defensively, Bucks juggernauts defensively, the Celtics, who I don't really rate that highly, but you know what? I can't fault them because they have 2 perimeter guys that are two-way players, right? The Pacers, a well-built system, right? Then you got the Nets sitting at 5th right now. I'm looking at them. I said at the beginning of the season, and I think I might be right. They might be the favorites based on the fact that they have good players, the big 3, but around it, every other team has a better rounded team. And also, Steve Nash, he's a great player. We don't know what he is as a coach yet.
Right. I'm gonna give him a bit of respect on the coaching part because he did something. It was earlier this season, and I called it out. And I'm like, "Yo, Nash is bringing some footy into basketball." When he rotated his starting lineup and he put all his defensive guys. This was before the trade. He put a bunch of guys. He rotated the starting lineup, and had like Joe Harris come off the bench. He didn't put those guys in, and he did it to throw off. I can't remember what team they were playing, but he did to just throw off the team because he was like, "Listen, my starters are still going to play more minutes, but I'm going to rotate." So the start of the game because they've been having bad starts. So he did something that most coaches don't normally do. And that to me, I was like, okay, this man's out there coaching because like that's not something you see in the NBA. Nobody ever puts their bench players in to start a game just to try. Like it's not a thing, right? It's you'll mix them in the game, but they won't start the game that way. So I was really impressed with that from Nash. But you're right, they didn't put the pieces together for a defense. What's going to happen is they're going to get to the playoffs and they're going to lose to a Bucks or somebody in the third round. Like they're going to make it. The reason why they'll make it all the way to the Eastern Conference Final, in my opinion, well, it depends on who they face on the way. If they face Boston, no chance. In my opinion, no chance. The Boston will take them up before they. So if we look at it from now, their first round would be against the Pacers. They're going to beat the Pacers, but we're not. I don't know if the Pacers will finish there, but I think the Nets truthfully will finish in that. I can't even say they'll finish in that third spot. You know what? I'm looking at this and. Do you know what could end up happening? The Nets could end up playing the Raptors because at the end of the day, I don't believe the Raptors will stay out of the playoffs. I want them to, but I don't believe they will. But I believe that 4 or 5 spot will be very different by the end of the year. Whoever the Nets play in the first round, they'll be fine. But when they have to go up against a Celtics, Bucks, or 76ers, that's where they'll probably end up losing this year.
So let me ask you a question here real quick. Is Kyrie long-term for Brooklyn?
He has to be.
Not necessarily right now.
I understand that they have that, but there are some players that have been talked about being moved in other situations. You know what I'm saying? Like, is this a situation where maybe Kyrie wears out his welcome early like he does in other places and goes to I don't know, Philadelphia for another, Ben Simmons kind of type?
Let me tell you something. When it comes to Kyrie Irving, his market value has dropped due to his antics. Okay?
Oh, absolutely.
So when it comes to any trade that you're going to get for Kyrie at this point, you can't do a Bradley Beal 1-for-1. That's never going to work. Even though it would help one team, not the other.
Pretty dirty.
You can't do that. Even if they tried to get Westbrook, I don't think Washington would do that.
So those are going to be the two biggest names right now.
So
Kyrie's not going to trade.
You won't trade Kyrie. I think Kyrie's next move's out of the league. That's my opinion.
Retirement.
And the reason why is because I think the friendship. The thing is, Kevin Durant and Kyrie are really tight. They're real friends. They're real good friends. And I think the friendship's going to overweigh anything that goes down. KD is the player that, when it comes down to it, that's who they're going to listen to in that organization because KD's a winner. He's won multiple chips now.
Show the Mohawk, bro.
Oh, dope. Has he won multiple or is he just won 1 or just 2? Was he there for 2?
Oh, Durant?
Yeah, he won 2, right?
Durant got 2.
2. So he's got multiple chips. Harden doesn't have any yet. Harden's just there to win a chip. That Harden is legitimately, I'm here because I want to win a championship. I'm fat. It's over. It is what it is. I will say this. that Brooklyn Nets team will be a favorite next year. Like I keep saying, if they get the right pieces. If not, they kind of messed up because those three players are all offensive players, but you cannot count them out because they're so good. That's the problem. We can't sit here and be like they can't go through the East because at any given moment when you have three players that can drop a 50 spot on you, like it's the truth.
No, but this is embarrassing though. Look at how are they letting Sexton get a career high? It shows that they're gonna have a problem.
Let's give some
Harden can't defend. Kyrie can't defend.
I'm going to answer this comment. People in the comments want to know who I respect.
One thing. Yeah, I know who you rep. I'll let you say that in a second. But when it comes to Kyrie Irving, guys, this is the same man who let Damian Lillard get a career high on him. This is the same man who let Bear guys. I think Jamal Murray got a career high on him.
He did.
How many times did we see guys get career highs on him? James Harden, same thing. We've seen Bear guys get numbers on him. If they're not going to defend and they can't outscore their opponents, and they're just going to struggle in the East, especially with all the defensive juggernauts that are in the East, I think they're in trouble, guys. Anyways, say your team that you support.
Well, hey guys,
you guys a Raptors fan, bro. So you guys for everybody, people asking me who I'm a Raptors fan. I'm Torontonian. No, I'm not from Toronto, but I'm a Raptors fan. Live in Toronto. I live.
Okay, and who do you support, Devin?
Hawks, baby. Hawks, Atlanta Hawks.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you guys are under a rock, you would know that I'm a Raptors fan also. Now we're gonna move on swiftly from the East and go to the West. Okay, so before we do anything to do with trades, the Western. If you guys have seen the table on the West, it looks very similar to what we would have thought it would look like, except for one or two factions. Right, the 9th and 10th seed would surprise you, but the rest all makes sense. Let me just pull it up. Have you guys looked at the tables?
I actually haven't looked at the standings. To be honest, I haven't. Yeah. I've been betting a lot of money.
Hey, Cam,
Clippers,
what would you think about Kevin Porter Jr. on your on the Nets as a cheap signing?
That makes sense because those stars will be like, bro, you don't get to act up here.
So 9 and 10 to be a player.
So 9 and 10 aren't going to be 9 and 10. I don't think. If we're going to be honest,
14 and 15 makes sense.
12 Pelicans. What's going on, man? The Pelicans.
Why would they get a coach like that? He's not an NBA coach anymore.
Well, also, why the hell is Zion so tired at 21 years old? Like, come on, man. It's like they said. I forget the commentator that said it was like, dude, you need to play 35 to 40 minutes a night. Like, there's no excuse for you at 21 years old in the pandemic to be doing load management in the first 15 games of the season. Like, there's no sense in it. Either his injury was a lot more serious than we were ever told, or he's part two. He's Robert Traylor part 2, you know?
So the problem with Big Zion, and I don't hate, like, I want to bet against my boys a while back. I bet on John Morant to win the Rookie of the Year. The thing about Zion is he was such a dominant force in college because that body. Think about a college kid. You think about in college. When I was in university, I was light. Like, I was a small kid, man. Like, this guy's moving these kids around like no problem. But now you're in the NBA, and these guys can body with you. It's like it doesn't matter how big you are. Like, these guys are strong. They're men. They're physical. Like, you're up against the 1% elite basketball players in the world whose bodies are just as strong as you. So his problem is his conditioning because it's hard to be conditioned when you're that size, right? Yeah. Like, even Shaq used to get tired, right? But the thing about Shaq was Shaq did so much damage to you on the other end that the players playing against him were drained by it. Zion doesn't punish guys like Shaq does, and he's got to do that. He's got to literally, every time he's in the paint, someone's got to feel him. Because if they don't, then like you're basically just giving them a pass.
That's the era we live in, right? And that's the era that we live in, though, because basically what it comes down to is, you know, he's hanging out on the 3-point line. Like, he's developed a shot, and I dig that because he didn't really have it at Duke. He was all flash and muscle, but in the NBA, like you said, you're not going to be able to back down people like that, and somebody will put it right back onto you. So I wonder if his durability at such a young age is going to be a detraction to his long-term, viability in the league.
Okay,
as long as he stays healthy, he'll be a player.
So I think when you guys are looking at that table, if I could bring it back up, there's the two people that stand out with the 10th and the 9th seeds being Dallas and Denver, right? But when you look deep into it, is it that different from what we really expected for the rest of the West? Because I feel like the rest of the West looks similar. I'm going to pull it up right now as we're speaking. So let me get it back up for you guys. Yeah. So here we go. So we got the Clippers, Lakers, Jazz. We expected the Suns to be really good.
The Suns to be good this year.
Warriors. I did not expect the Warriors to be 5th seed.
But we didn't know Clay was going to get hurt.
Defensively, they improved. Grizzlies. I expected them to be good. Spurs. I expected them to fall off.
So Spurs,
honestly, DeMar DeRozan impresses me every year. He's like fine wine. He just gets better and better. And LaMarcus Aldridge is coming back from the dead. And I'll tell you one thing: Keldon Johnson, steal.
Lonnie Walker, steal. I mean, like that Spurs squad is
Spurs just
steal. You know,
Spurs just do it every year, man. Dejounte Murray, Lonnie Walker, Keldon Johnson, like all these kids, like, and Derek White's out still. Keep that in mind, right? Derek White was balling in the bubble. DeMar DeRozan, I got a lot of respect. Like Devin Vassell, that's another kid who came out of nowhere and is playing well. And then you have Rudy Gay, who's learned how to just be like, yo, I'm gonna play my part. I don't need to take 25 shots a game. The Spurs, I do think, won't make the playoffs when it's all said and done. I'll be honest. I just don't think they have the juice. I don't think they have the juice. The Grizzlies, I'm not going to count out because that grind city, they've just been knocking on the door, and I love my boy JV. That Warriors team, I wouldn't be surprised if they get dropped out too.
Okay, who's the locks? Our Clippers are a lock?
Clippers, Lakers, Jazz. I'm putting the Suns as a lock because Chris Paul.
Nuggets, Mavs are going to jump up.
They have to. It's crazy if they don't. KP
okay, so Nuggets and Mavs jump up. So from these four teams, who's gonna be the last two?
Spurs and Trailblazers, in my opinion.
So Thunder are out.
Yeah.
Pelicans are out. Kings are out. Rockets are out, and Timberwolves are just a joke without Cat.
Which really hurts me because, like I said, there's a lot of great talent. Scroll down just a little bit more. There was one team that I was like that. Like I expected more out of the Kings. I expected more out of the Pelicans. And with a talent like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, you have to expect more out of the Thunder. You know what I mean? I think the West is a little bit more open, but extremely top heavy.
I don't think you got to expect more. I agree. Shai's my dude. He's from Shai and Nikhil. They're both from, I know Nikhil's from Hamilton, which is dope. The thing about the Thunder is they're in such a rebuild, which at 6 and 7 is still wild. Like they sent everybody out. Like think about it. You've traded Paul George and now Chris Paul back to back, and you're still 6 and 7. You got a new coach, and you're still 6 and 7. Like that tells you how good Shai is.
You have 200 and something first round picks over the next 5
drafts. That tells you how good Shai is. So give them time. We'll be talking about the Thunder in the top part of the standings in the next few years. Give them time. The Kings, I'm not surprised. You went out and got Hassan Whiteside. That was stupid. You didn't need him. There's other things you need to do. Move Bagley. I don't rate Bagley. I don't know about you guys, but like I think when they got rid of David Jorger, the coach there who was finally getting them in the winning ways, and he didn't want to play Bagley because they were winning, and he's like, I'm winning without this kid. And then Vladdy came down and was like, listen, we spent a pick on him. You got to play him. And he ended up getting fired. He lost his job because of that. So in my opinion, like the Kings are just poorly ran. And when you're a poorly ran organization, this is what happens. This is what you see.
Okay. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to
does Buddy Hield know?
Buddy Hield's got it.
Sorry, I had to know. I mean, Cam, what are your thoughts on Buddy Hield, man? That's another name that is not going to stay in Sacramento. So do they get draft capital for him?
We're gonna get into that. So first things first, we're gonna do Devin's team and the Atlanta Hawks, right? And then we're gonna do the Raptors, and then we're gonna move on to any team in the comment section that you guys want to move. I think the Washington Wizards has to be one of the teams that we have to talk about. So we're gonna do NBA trade deadline talk. Okay, we're the GMs, guys. Okay, Devin, you're taking the seat at the helm of the Atlanta Hawks. Cam, me and you are Masai Ujiri's sidemen. Okay, we're gonna do our job. Is that Arizona?
No. It's a bear.
I was like,
Arizona, eh?
Man, those drinks. I'm not gonna lie to you. They don't have nice drinks over here, man. Everything's like
99% sugar.
Okay.
Glass
so I feel like Devin, we're gonna do your team first, Atlanta Hawks, actually, right? So we're gonna look at your team. There's players that you can't trade. You can't trade Gallinari. You can't trade Bogdanovich. You can't trade Rondo, right? You can't trade Chris Dunn. So the rest of the team, I personally think Fernando is absolute trash, but he's just an end of the bench guy. To me, I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't see too many moves that you guys could make, but Talk to me. You said a lot about John Collins.
Yeah, I think we offered him a 5-year, $90 million contract. He turned it down. He wants the max at 5 and 205 or something like. We're not going to do that.
125, yeah.
Yeah, he wants ridiculous money. We're not going to put it on the table, and we'll get the absolute best package. I think Onyeka Okongwu is going to come on. I also do believe that a player for us like a Kevin Huerter would be available on the cheap for a team looking for a shooter that can play some defense. So those are going to be the two biggest names that people are going to be coming after us for. Are going to be John Collins and Kevin Huerter. We haven't seen anything out of the likes of like Tony Snell or Chris Dunn yet. We're not trading Trae Young. We're obviously building around him. So I hate the fact that we're going to lose a 19-10 player in John Collins, but he's not happy here, so we might as well get what we absolutely can for him. Follow the Oklahoma City model and stack up our draft capital because we're going to be paying a lot of money to Trae Young here in the next 2 years or so. Go ahead.
I think you just kind of nailed where I think would be a good landing spot for him.
Okay, so who's the team?
OKC. I think you got to look at these teams who have recently come into a lot of draft capital, but need some talent, an injection of proper talent.
So he's going to OKC for who?
So the problem you guys have with John Collins is he doesn't make enough money. That's the problem. It's so hard to match contracts. So for OKC, it would be picks. It would literally just be OKC saying, you know what? Darius Bazley experiment, he's been decent, but you would send him out. Okay, you would send him out to get John Collins plus multiple picks. Yeah. Being like, listen, Atlanta, you can get a bunch of picks back. Bazley is somebody that is serviceable. He can play the small forward. He can play the 4. It makes sense. You take I'm telling you right now, it would cost them in that kind of deal 2 picks. At least 2 first-round picks.
And they have to be unprotected, or we're talking like 4
unprotected. It would be. Okay. I think it would be 2.
Since the contract is cheap, they would have to give up somebody. So who
Bazley?
Who they give up?
I'd say it would be Darius Bazley. He's had a good year. He's been really. Yeah. His shooting has been very inconsistent, but he's shown he can be a player, which makes it okay. Cool. We get a young player back, and then you get all the picks.
You know what? They have the draft exception. They could do it without any. It would work perfectly without just picks.
Yeah. So I was about to say they do have multiple trade exceptions, and they could. If that was the case and we weren't receiving anyone back, I think you would see 2 firsts and a future first. That maybe was slightly like maybe top lottery or lottery protected or something like that. But the Hawks are going to cash in. Travis Schlenk likes draft capital, as you've seen when we traded Luka for Trae and a future first that ended up becoming Cam Reddish. So a lot of people want to think of that trade as a straight up trade. It's not. We did a 2-for-1, and I think that the Hawks actually, I catch shit for it all the time. I think the Hawks came out on top on that because I think Cam Reddish ended up being a defender.
So I would have. I can't.
I would do a different team.
The only reason I see. Go on. Yeah. Sorry. Go on.
Let's move on from OKC. And I think the team that I would look at for 1 second. Why is this acting up now?
And Devin, while he's looking for his team, the only reason I'd say you guys didn't come out on top is because there is a good chance that Luka's an MVP in the next few years, and you just can't put a price on that. But I hear you with the Cam Reddish thing. He could be better. The thing is, you know who's put a wrench in Cam Reddish development? DeAndre Hunter.
Yeah. We're ending up having to play Cam as the 2 guard. But with Bogey going down with the knee injury, it's going to give Cam more playing time. Cam's whole thing is like Cam's got confidence issues, man. Playing behind RJ Barrett and Zion at Duke as the number 3 recruit in the country. Like everybody forgets, Cam was a legend, in high school and all that other stuff. So I just think he needs to be in a situation that's not run by Lord Pierce. I'd rather see Nate McMillan coaching him up. I think Cam's got the opportunity to be a superstar on the defensive side and then be more than serviceable on the offensive side. And Trae Young is a superstar. He may not be an MVP, but he's got first or second team All NBA future potential. So the 2 of them together, that's 45 points a night. I think we won. I think we won that trade. Not to say that Luka as an individual isn't better than the other 2, but those 2 combined give you more than Luka gives you.
Okay, so before we move on, I'm just going to run through some of the teams.
Are you going to Philly?
Boston,
Milwaukee.
Boston's not going to be able to do a deal. Okay, yes. Milwaukee, I don't think they have the trade space to do a deal, and they don't have the actual infrastructure to give you anything. Miami, they don't have anything to give you guys either. New York, they do have assets. They have a lot of assets, but I feel like you guys would not want any of their players.
I disagree. We would take Mitchell heartbeat, not to get Mitchell Robinson off the Knicks for about a season and a half. If they would come off him, we would trade.
You wouldn't take Mitchell Robinson though, because Clint Capella is a better version. Clint Capella is
behind him. All we have is Onyeka Okongwu at 6'9" in shoes. You know what I'm saying? Like, we have no other centers.
But does Mitchell Robinson look at himself and say, "I want to go be a backup"? Mind you, I don't know if he's a starter. I don't know. He's a starter because he's on the Knicks. I agree. I don't know if he is a starter. If he's able to look at Atlanta and say, you know what, I could back up Capella, because Capella also has his Achilles, his knee issues. He goes down every now and then. Mm-hmm. Then you know what? I don't disagree with that. But I think right now Mitchell Robinson's probably looking at himself as, I should start and I want to be in New York because that's where I can start. This is the problem with all those Knicks players. I saw you hovering over Philly earlier over Egal, and I think Philly.
Right now I'm on the Sixers. Because I feel like the Sixers.
You're on Orlando. You're on Orlando right now.
I mean, Orlando have some pieces, some interesting pieces that I'm thinking about.
Like, Jonathan Isaac.
Would you go Jonathan Isaac and Eric Gordon for John Collins?
I don't think they can trade Isaac though. They just gave him the $80 million contract.
Oh yeah, this thing, his contract doesn't show up yet.
It doesn't kick in until it kicks in next year, but he's been extended. I think Aaron Gordon's a good shout, but it's too expensive.
There's definitely options. I mean, my whole thing is, I think we move him out of the East. If we're not going to trade him to a top Eastern so that he can sit there and fight with us, you know, unless it's for a just absolute bevy of picks.
So who could you get from Atlanta? I mean, who could you get from the Sixers? You mentioned the Sixers earlier.
I think the 76ers have the juice. They could send
we have Matthias Thybulle.
They could send Thybulle. This is the thing. Any deal for John Collins, any deal, and I'm going to say this right now, will require multiple picks. It will not be a straight up. You get John Collins. I'm not going to sleep on the talent that John Collins may not be the greatest defender, but boy, we haven't seen a power forward like John Collins since he kind of reminds me of a Karl Malone. I'm not going to lie. Taller Karl, he's got a smooth jumper. He's got moves around the paint. He's good on, he's got good handles. And then when he shows up on defense, he is nice. He does not show up on defense all the time. But
you know what? The Raptors need a big man.
The
Raptors need him. The Raptors need him, but we can't afford him.
19th pick in the draft. You got 20 and 10 out of the 19th pick in the draft. And you look at the people that were taken before him. If you redo that draft that John Collins was in, I think he goes fourth. You know what I mean?
I looked at the East, and in my opinion, Chicago, no. Cleveland, no. Detroit, no. Indiana, they have enough pieces to get him, but I don't think
it doesn't work.
I don't know. It doesn't work.
I take Lauri Markkanen tomorrow, because I think that he fits the shooter style that you want to play. Lauri, you'd have to make it work, but it's a situation to where it's I think
they would do that in a heartbeat.
So this is an interesting one. This is actually no, but this is an interesting one. I like this one because the reason why you do this is because exactly that. Capella's your center. You're your five, your anchor, right? You put a shooter beside him in a Markkanen who also isn't sure about his future in Chicago. I'm quite certain he's not trying to take as much money as John Collins is. If this deal works right here, plus a pick, you wouldn't send plus a couple, because that's a lot to go back, plus a couple picks, maybe one or two, because Markkanen also has that. He's a young player.
Yep.
He has upside, so you can't take them for a lot of picks on this one. This could work because Chicago will max him. They have no problem maxing him. And teams like Chicago are in a situation right now where you have to gain these assets. So you do have to max certain players and hope that they turn out because you have Zach LaVine. So unless you're trading Zach LaVine, you got to build around him. Bringing in these two players, that's a good trade. I like that one.
That's a good deal. Chicago works. But for me, I didn't think you'd want a Lauri Markkanen. Maybe that's your personal preference, but I don't think the organization.
Everything about it is the three-pointer. That's all we're going to do. We're going to shoot.
Atlanta doesn't play defense, dog.
Why don't you go after Julius Randle?
No, I want Mark. Man, Julius Randle's having one of those years where we're saying like he looks so good, great, blah blah blah. Next year we're not going to be talking about Julius Randle. Okay, he's having a good year, and that's it.
Okay, moving on.
So the Toronto Raptors, I want to go after him, but they won't. They can't.
The Toronto Raptors, in my opinion, we have a couple guys that we could get rid of, right? We have a couple guys that we can't get rid of, like Van Vliet, Aaron Gordon. Aaron Baines, I mean, Chris Boucher,
OG.
why the hell would we want to get rid of him? He's amazing.
OG, we can't get rid of him.
Of course. And then we do have pieces. There's pieces that I feel like we can't move because they can't cuts. Can't touch. Like Siakam is a guy that we can't really touch. Norman Powell, unless we're getting something really good in return.
Norman Powell is going, by the way. Norman Powell is out this year. So if we're talking about the Raptors, like all trades that are going to be that you could think about, and this is a Masai strategy, he's not going to keep Norm for the worry. See that $11 million contract that he can opt into next year? That will mess with our cap.
Okay.
And so I made a big gamble for Giannis. Made a big gamble. It missed. Cool. Yeah. All good. No big deal. I'm happy. I'm cool. Any Raptors fan knew what he was trying to do. Here's the deal. We now have to find a way to move Norm Powell, but then get back a proper asset that we're happy to spend on. I thought Jared Allen was going to be that guy, personally. Like I was like, we need a 5. Whether or not if we move Norm for nothing, whatever, we need a 5. And we need to open up the space so we can spend exponentially on a Jared Allen and just have that asset in there. Or I want you to figure out what would it take for us to get Drummond. I don't want Drummond.
Why would you want Drummond?
Let me explain. I don't want Drummond, but let me explain. I
want Allen.
I want Allen too. Problem is, so do the Cavs. And now the Cavs have his rights, so he's restricted. We ain't getting him. Cavs made that deal so they could keep Allen and let Drummond walk. Drummond comes into Toronto this year because I don't know about you. We're not going to tank. We're not bad enough. We cannot be a lotto team.
Okay, so who goes? Because we need to make up 28 mil.
Unless Drummond gets bought out by the Cavs, like that could be your buyout market.
You send Norm Powell. That's first things first.
That's 10. Okay, so we still have to make up 18.
You send Terrence Davis because he's not that good, to be honest.
That's nothing. It doesn't even chunk into it.
It's okay. Hold on. You still have you have to be within 125%. Hold on. Okay, and so then 12. Throw in McCaw.
Yeah.
And we also have cap space. See if that works.
It won't work.
Let's see. No, we have cap space. You have to keep that in mind. We have we're not over the cap. Like we'll have. Oh no,
it won't work.
You're 19 million under. You're 19 million over the cap.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's next year we'll have the cap. So this is the problem. So
if we were to try to do this,
you do it straight up.
If we were to try to do this, right, it would have to be Lowry.
Yeah, it'd have to be Kyle Lowry.
Yeah, and I can't do that. I can't even fathom that. I can't even
unless they
since we're here, can I say one thing? Since we're here, there is one deal that we could do that works straight up.
Yeah, okay. I'll bring in Nance. We need somebody who can rebound.
3-year deal. Power forward. And you know what? He would actually come in and play center for us.
Yeah, he'd be
one of the best defenders in the league.
Larry is a chronically underrated player. That guy comes in and just does his job every single game, and that's why he's a fan favorite. You know, he just works. He just works his ass off.
Okay. I'm gonna do something that you're gonna not like. Okay, but you tell me what you think. I think actually, it's the reason why I say you're not gonna like it is because I don't think you're gonna think it's realistic. 1 second, let's start this over. Do you think it's realistic to trade Kyle Lowry this season?
Yep. I'm not saying I want to. Hold on, I got my charger.
Okay.
So, yes, I think that there's a move to be made. It's going to cost.
I'm not saying I want to do it. Like, let's be clear, because Lowry, it'll be tragic if he doesn't get to play like his last game in Toronto, like he's playing in fucking Tampa. But there's one. I think the only situation though where Lowry goes is you're pulling it up. Or Philly in some way, shape, or form, just because it'd be like if Philly's willing to give us players that make sense, like they can't send us Seth Curry, or actually they can. Like would
this work? Would this work?
Yeah, it would.
But how much would we have to give them on top?
Everything. So,
Everything.
So here's the deal. This trade right here,
2024, 2026, your first round picks would be gone for half the next decade.
Which is the reason why I wouldn't say it's realistic is because that's not how Masai moves. Like Masai makes, like, look what he done with his draft picks. Pascal was 26.
Mm-hmm.
OG was 20 something, I think. He should have been in the lottery, but his knee injury. JV was 10. Like all, like Masai uses his draft picks and he does well with them. So he's never going to move, in my opinion, multiple draft picks for anybody. But for Brad Beal, I would send them 3-4 picks, all the swaps, do what you have to do, because it's the only way you're really going to get him.
Okay. Now
would you go for a 4-man Bradley Beal and like Hield? Like we mentioned him earlier from Sacramento. You said it was a dumpster fire. Would a player like Buddy Hield work for you guys in Toronto if you didn't have to? If you could,
we value defense. We value defending more than we value scoring.
Yeah. Okay. Next year it might work, to be honest. So next year you need to watch the Raptors. This year, I agree with this dude too saying we're not going to be doing anything this year. I agree. Next year you have to watch the Raptors because we have so much space, right? So we'll just be able to absorb dudes. We'll be able to make trades and just be like, well, we just can take. So if Sacramento, for instance, was like, listen, we don't want to pay Buddy's $22 million or whatever, and we were letting Lowry walk because he wants to go. That's cool. Like whatever Lowry does at this point, there's no hard feelings, right? Then you go and get Buddy Hield, right? Because that's still better than nothing. Like right. At the end of the day, it's better than having Malachi Flynn out there. It's better than having Terrence Davis out there. And the Raptors aren't a team that tank. Like we've never been a tanking team. Like, I mean, well, since Masai's been here, we've never been a tanking team. It's not his style. Even when we weren't a tanking team, like when we were a tanking team, we didn't do it on purpose. We just sucked. Like that's all it was. So this is like, I could see trades to the like exact. There you go. So this is, see what you're doing here. This would also make sense if we can go in, and this would be a next year thing where if we can go after some of Philly's younger guys like the Tyrese Maxeys of the world, the Thybulls, get Seth Curry in. If you could do that,
that's going to cost you OG Anunoby, hands down.
No. This is not costing us OG. We're taking Seth, Tony Bradley, Matisse Thybulle, Tyrese Maxey.
It won't work from a money perspective, but this is the kind of deal where I think the Raptors do like a sign and trade with Philly because you're like, we're sending him home. Yo, Philly, you add Kyle Lowry to Ben Simmons.
How much it would take for them just to
win. Embiid that now you're a contender. Now you're a real contender. Kyle Lowry is a champion. We're giving you a championship point guard who has been to the All-Star game 6 years on the bounce. They'll give us whatever we want.
But if you think about it, Thybulle is one of the better young defenders in the NBA right now.
They don't play him though. They don't use him though.
I'm just saying in what you'd be getting in return. I'm looking at the return because in order to make the money work, you have to look at the upside. So the upside in this deal is Maxey and Thybulle's defense. Yeah. Everything else is kind of just.
What about Tony Bradley? What about Tony Bradley? How old is Tony Bradley?
Shooting. Tony Bradley's a rookie.
Yeah, so we can't forget the upside of Tony Bradley also.
I just don't know what he would do. Like,
I'm talking about the players that are going to come in and make a difference for you. If I'm a Hawks GM right now, and I know that Matisse Thybulle is not getting played in Philly, I need him because he makes my defense better on a team full of shooters. So you guys value defense. So I think that the crown jewel in that entire trade right there that I'm looking at is Thybulle. I like that. Yeah. Of Lowry going back to Philly. I think that's the perfect fit for a Villanova kid.
I don't think they're going to do it because it doesn't match up the money wise. And I really don't know any other options for Kyle Lowry. If you guys do in the comment section, put them in. But we're going to have to move on. We spent a lot of time on two teams. Now, is there a specific team that is going to be a big mover in the trade deadline?
Look at Denver and look at Utah. I think both of them believe that they're in a position where they can both be players in a West that's really top heavy with the Clippers and the Lakers. Again, I think the Clippers and the Lakers are going to be heavy in the buyout market. And I also think that the Miami Heat might play a role. But if Denver with Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic can go get a third wheel and compete, by moving a Will Barton or by moving, you got to understand Michael Porter Jr. is going to be on his the last year of his rookie contract. So, I would look at Denver and I'd look at Utah.
I'd also look at the Pels. Look at the Pels too, because the Pels, if this Lonzo Ball situation doesn't start getting better, if we don't start looking at the Pelicans and be like, is Lonzo their start? Like, is he going to be their future? Because if he's not their future, they have to move him, right? Because he's going to be a restricted free agent, and you're already seeing teams like Orlando Raptors have been rumored to be looking at him. Any team that could need a point guard next year, and I put the Raptors in that category because I don't believe.
Does that work for you?
That move right there, you're highlighting.
That works if like 18 picks are sent, though.
Or they would have to at least give them. They'd have to at least give them Michael Porter.
So this is the thing.
So if they did that right there,
then now it's doable. Once Michael Porter's in there, and like probably still a pick, it's doable. The problem is Denver has come out and said like Michael Porter's untouchable to them. They see him as like one of the next.
It still works,
Could you imagine
money-wise?
Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic? Like that team is ridiculous. Like that team challenges in the West because Jokic can lock anyone down and be one of the most assist-worthy centers in the West. And then over and above that, Jamal Murray is a monster, and he showed that in that showdown with Utah last year. Like if you could get Bradley Beal to stand out at the 3-point line and catch driving kicks from Jamal Murray, Denver could be dangerous. And
why this works? Why it works is because Jokic is their point guard. Like real talk. Like Jokic is their that's who creates everything for them. Denver's
picks are not valuable enough for them to.
It doesn't. So this is the thing with these big pick swaps we're seeing. Like look at what happened with Brooklyn. Teams don't care about how valuable the picks are at the moment because you never know what's going to happen. Brooklyn, when they traded all their picks for KG and Paul Pierce, this is who they turned into. Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, and Colin Sexton.
Yep.
Like, like those, you never know, right? So teams would rather just have the picks in and then see what they turn into. I think
Markel Fultz over Jason Tatum. Like, oh my God, talk about like Sam Bowie over Michael Jordan type picks. Like you look back on that draft and it's like, oh my God, Philly.
Ryan Colangelo.
Call me crazy. You know what works? If Ball goes to the Heat. Do you see it? All the shooters around him. Literally, they just get Ball and they try to move. They have to find a way to move somebody.
He's not going to go sit on a bench behind Tyler Hero. He's not going to sit behind Tyler Hero. He's not going to sit behind Kendrick Nunn and Robinson. Like that's just Duncan Robinson. That's Miami's got a great little setup on the cheap. You got to understand, like Tyler Hero is the 14th pick in the draft. He's not getting paid that much. Duncan Robinson's not getting paid that much. Bam Adebayo's not getting paid, max money like he should be. You know what I mean? Like Miami's still got a decent roster on
I think Miami ends up with Victor, who's a free agent next year. So Miami is also one of those teams who cleared space. It's not just
Raptors could get him too.
I think they want Giannis. I think they want Giannis in South Beach.
But the thing is, Victor came out and said he can. Well, it's too late now. I think Giannis has made it very clear. Like this is he loves, like he's cool with Miami. He's cool. I mean, Milwaukee's cool to stay there. Victor Oladipo, after his trade to Houston, reports came out and said he would still prefer a move to South Beach. So I think that's one of those things where Miami made a bunch of space. They cleared a bunch of space. They made it so it's like, okay, we have X amount of space. We're good to go. They're going to go after Victor Oladipo or they're going to try and go get Bradley Beal. I think it's going to be those two guys. One of those two ends up because Miami's such a draw, right? They've won multiple championships. They've got one of the best GMs. They've got a great coach. They got Jimmy. It's such a good situation if you can land there.
Who needs a point guard in the NBA?
Who's the best point guard in the NBA?
Which team is desperate for a point guard right now? Because there's so many point guards in the league. But I feel like there's the Knicks are desperate for a point guard, but they have Peyton and
Knicks are desperate.
Knicks are desperate, but they got Peyton and Quickly. Orlando's desperate, but they have Markel Fultz and Carter. Who else is there?
I mean,
Sixers.
Detroit,
Chicago.
Chicago have Kobe White.
Yeah, no, Kobe White.
Detroit.
I mean, Detroit.
But see, the thing is, you're saying like they have Kobe White, they have Emmanuel quickly, but you can upgrade on these guys, right? Like these guys aren't, in my opinion, you can, if you get a better point guard and you move Kobe White to a 6-man role versus like you have Zach LaVine as your shooting guard. If you can get a better point guard than Kobe White, you're good. If you can get a better point guard than Peyton or Quickly, you go get him. Fultz just got paid, so that's a little sticky. But like I think a lot of these like Detroit, Killian Hayes, like maybe he'll be good. I don't know. Sacramento, Halliburton, and Fox, they're set. Like, you know, so it's like I look at it when I think of your team, like Minnesota is D'Angelo Russell your point guard or is he shooting guard? Like that sometimes I look at those teams where I'm like, would you upgrade on that position?
Listen, hear me out, okay? You have Halliburton. I feel like Halliburton should be starting soon. You got De'Aaron Fox. You move De'Aaron Fox. You play D'Angelo Russell at the 2.
You're not moving De'Aaron Fox. You just
Listen. I personally think Sacramento should not start De'Aaron Fox as their starter.
But they just maxed him out.
I get that. It's a 6-year deal.
Do this, but my I have to jump off. I hate to do this to y'all. I appreciate it. We'll chat soon.
Bro. We're almost done anyways.
Yeah. I gotta go eat dinner too.
Later, bro. All right. So let's just end this here. The trades, there's gonna be a bunch of trades. We're gonna cover more of it next week.
Yeah, man.
Final thing. What are we gonna do with these Raptors, bro? They're trying to give us a headache, man.
Oh, man. When you can't beat a skeleton Miami squad, that's peak. I don't know, man. I was like, if you're going to tank. I don't want to be in the middle. I don't want to be a team that ends up in 8th and then gets waxed in the first round. I have no interest in that. Maybe I'm being spoiled. Like I remember back in the day where I'd bite someone's hand off just to be in the playoffs. I don't care if I got swept. That used to be the energy. But now it's, you went out and you maxed out. Well, you maxed out Pascal. Fine. He's a great 1B. He's not a 1A. You went out and signed Freddie to a big contract. Cool. OG, big contract. Cool. Problem is now we don't have that 1A. We need that 1A. So how are you going to get it if you're the Raptors? It's not going to be through free agency. We know that. It sucks. But we know people aren't coming. It's going to be through trade or you got to draft them. So if you're not going to tank, you got to go acquire assets, and that's why I brought up the Drummond thing.
You don't have to tank to get a 1A. You have to get really lucky. But you know what? Someone was saying something to me. They're saying Chris Boucher, he could be the 3rd option. But if we can go out and get a Bradley Beal and move Kyle Lowry,
that's your 1A.
Do you think we could save our season?
If you got Brad Beal, the Toronto Raptors next year are a title contender again. Like it's not even. I'm putting it it's that serious. If you put Fred VanVleet, Brad Beal, Pascal Siakam, OG Anunoby, and Boucher in the same starting 5, that is a title contending team. We've already proven that with our coach, you don't need 3 superstars. You need 1, and then you need a good team. We have a good team. Like we can't look at our team and be like we're like Fred VanVleet and Pascal Siakam are champions. That's not a fluke. Like people are like, oh well, Durant was hurt. I'm sorry, was Giannis hurt? We went through Milwaukee. Was Embiid hurt? We went through Philly. So it's just like you go and get that Brad Beal to replace what you lost with Kawhi Leonard, and you're good. You're back there because you have those players. That's my opinion.
Yeah,
I think Brad Beal's that good.
Bro, I just feel like the Raptors. This is a shock to our system because our expectations have been so high over the past couple of seasons that we're not used to this as fans.
Yep.
And I feel like after that loss against Miami and then right after against Portland, that really hit me. I was like, wow, like this is back-to-back 1-point losses. I don't know how to take this. Should I say we're lucky and make excuses, or should I just take it on the chin and be like, yo, this is what the season's going to be? And you know what, Cam? I'm not saying we're unlucky anymore. When I seen how we defended and how we struggled to score on half-court sets and how even on fast breaks sometimes we mess it up.
We don't get on fast breaks anymore. That's the problem. We can't even get on fast breaks anymore. We're like the teams have sussed out our fast break. That long pass, that touchdown pass from Lowry to Pascal, that's gone. Like we don't have that anymore because we don't have a half court present. We don't have a half court player. Like it's just like Lowry and Fred are guys who can get their shot off the best, and they're 5'11". Like I'm sure you're taller than these guys. They're not tall dudes. They that's the problem. They can't score at will. They can't get their shot off. So Pascal, as you said, he only has really that one go-to move. He's not really a closer. I love the guy, but yeah, that's how I look at it. We'll see.
Yeah. Anyways, bro, Raptors are playing literally right now, so we're gonna head off.
All right.
And what I'm gonna say to you is thanks for coming on, bro. Really appreciate it. And everyone watching, big up to you guys. Hopefully we can do this more often. It's great. The time flies when you're just talking basketball, you know?
It really does.
Yeah, but yo, big up to everybody watching. Really appreciate it. And if you guys enjoyed the show, do me a favor, put in the comment section what you rate the show out of 10 right now, and give a shout out to Cam. If you don't already have him on Twitter, check out his Twitter. Plug your Twitter quick, bro.
It's right here, C_low77.
There you go. And you still doing the United show?
Yeah. Trafford Talk. We will be doing a preview for the Liverpool game. I'll be doing that on Saturday, UK time, 5 p.m. And then my Twitter is basically just United and Raptors. I haven't talked about the Raptors a lot this year because it hurts, but it is what it is. And Harris, it is 7:35 in Canada right now. I'm gonna go eat dinner.
All right, peace out, bro. Have a good one.
Peace.
Later, people.